It's like, I don't know if you're a golfer, but you play bad the entire round and you hit a real good birdie putt on that last one, you're coming back. And that's a lot of way that this business is. And I think that's a lot of way life is. If you truly look at it, that, everybody's got, that one family member that they've got something, that they have a disagreement with, or you got a job that you have problems with. And it's really just trying to take that glass half full approach to everything and doing the best you can.
And we are going to have a great conversation today about what the journey to entrepreneurship was like for Brett Goode. And today's guest is Brett, and he's going to share his journey, which I promise you is going to be an interesting one. Thanks for being on the show, Brett.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right. I've got to ask, everybody has this story that where it all starts for them. And it's always something, I mowed grass, I did whatever. Talk about growing up, and did you have an entrepreneurial bug? What did that look like for you?
Well, growing up, I knew that if I wanted to buy things, I needed money. And so at a young age, it really didn't matter what I did. I grew up, my first job was actually picking up trash on a construction job site. And I would do that and kind of balance that with school life. That was probably age of between 12 and 14 that I went out there to do that, just because I knew that I wanted to save my money. And it wasn't going paycheck to paycheck. It was really trying to save up and buy things that I wanted to. And as I kind of grew through that throughout my life, it was always something that I wanted to entertain. Even when I went through school, I went to school to be a coach and a teacher, but I never wanted to be stuck in a classroom. Realistically, I wanted to be out and about and doing things. And I think as I, went on to high school and then college, it kind of the same things happened. Fortunately for me, I was able to play football on a professional note for 10 years. And that was a lot like, you're self-employed on that aspect as well. Even though you're a W-2 employee, you work out on your own, and you have to be driven on your own. And nobody's there to really push you, because if you don't do it, somebody else is there ready to go. So a lot of that for that previous 10 years was the driving force to kind of set me up to where I am now. When I got out of sports, I went into insurance and tried to do that field. And it never was something that I just loved to do. I mean, I was good at it, and I could talk the talk, but it wasn't something that the day-to-day really, just kind of lit the fire beneath me to want to drive to do more. So then I joined my wife on real estate to help her out, and on the side, and as I was trying to figure it out, and then came up with the idea to buy a franchise.
All right. So every guy that's listening to this wants to talk football, and everybody that played football loves to talk football.
Yeah.
Where I want to go with this, I do want to hear the football stories, but what I would like to do today is to connect what going through football and training and the effort there, create a connection to entrepreneurship and relate those two for us.
I think the biggest issue that anybody that's ever played sports, realistically, anybody that's ever been in business and tried to, most successful people, you always have a lot of negative words around you. You always have a lot of people saying you can't do it. You're dumb doing this. Why would you do it this way? Everybody's got an opinion on how you should run your own life. And that's no difference of sports and business. And I think I used the aspect of, I even used it today with my wife. I was talking, I've been cussed out every way, but that's not politically correct, every which way you could think of. And it's a pushing motivational factor, but it's also that you're only as good as your last play on the football field. And that's the same thing I take every day in business. You're only as good as yesterday. Every day is different. Every day is something new. The football relationship is that every day is new on the football field. Whether you're doing the same thing for 10 years in a career, you're still doing something different every day. Your body changes the way that you can recover certain ways. So you really have to push yourself. And I know that on the football aspect, the off season grind, you're by yourself. I tore my ACL, I tore my hamstring, tore both of those, and the rehab's on you. You kind of get a plan out there. You get a piece of paper that shows, hey, this is what you need to do. But that's the biggest difference between a lot of professional athletes and guys that didn't get out of high school is they do every little thing right. And I wasn't the greatest athlete, but I did everything right. And I'm trying to do everything right in the business aspect. You make mistakes along the way, but you learn from those mistakes, and you realize that just because I have a bad day today, there's nothing that, a nice cold glass of tequila can't cure, and I can come back to work tomorrow and get it figured out, and that's my mindset is, you always hear on social media, there's a lot of threats. There's a lot of fans that go after you, and so you always hear a lot of negative things, and you learn to push that aside and just focus on the positives and try to really be glass half full, as you approach just every day.
Yeah, the screen pirates or whatever they're called that
Mm-hmm.
that lurk behind the shadows of a keyboard.
Yeah.
There's haters everywhere, and
Right.
the mindset where people get caught is they don't have that positive mindset to shut that out. And my wife always tells me, "You're good at shutting me out, so I don't know why you can't shut
Yeah.
them out."
Yeah.
So there's, and I say that jokingly, but that, that mindset and the ability to stay focused on the task and the goal. Yeah.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Well, I'll talk briefly about mine. Was, there was one day that it just was crystal clear what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And I knew there was risk, but it didn't seem to phase me. But I still, like the day that I was pulling the trigger going, I'm really going to do this.
Mhm.
I don't know that I slept that night. So talk about for you, what that journey looked like for you.
I think there's a lot of similarities with that on my aspect of, you try to find the hardest part when you leave professional sports is what do you do? You have a structured schedule all the time, that you need to stay on that structure to maintain your body, whether it's physique, putting food in, sleep, rest, work ethic, everything else. And that's what I missed, as I missed that structure of what am I going to go do now? And I constantly was searching for something. I had a friend reach out and said, why don't you get into this? And I dug into it a little bit and landed on it. And I was very fortunate to find where I'm at, that there was an opportunity available. But it's that risk. There's always the one thing you're like, man, what happens if it fails? And it could fail,
Yeah.
and it's scary that things go through that. But there's so many things, if you really look at your day to day and just a 9 to 5 job, how many things fail? And so
Mm.
it's a different the way that you scale it. And for this, I was excited. I was super happy to have that opportunity. And and you get everything going and everything starts running the right way for about 2 months, and then it went downhill with this.
Mm.
And we got a late start because of different issues that you don't know until you dive into business and learn how to do the day-to-day operations. And it's not just making the calls and selling the product and providing a good service. It's the behind the scenes. You got to have inventory. For us, it's having trucks outfitted, payroll set up, and you got to be compliant with the state on all of your things that you need to be compliant with. And so that day to day also intrigues me. It's a little overwhelming sometimes because it all comes
Mm.
at you. You really just take it one little piece at a time, and you kind of break through those things. And so far, I've been fortunate that everything's kind of working out the right way. We're seeing a positive turn to this, but there's still nights that you're like, man, did I make the right decision? But
Mm.
then I wake up the next day and something goes right, and you're like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you're a golfer, but you play bad the entire round and you hit a real good birdie putt on that last one, you're coming back, and that's a lot of way that this
Mm.
business is, and I think that's a lot of way life is. If you truly look at it, that everybody's got that one family member that they've got something that they have a disagreement with, or
Mm.
you got a job that you have problems with, and it's really just trying to take that glass half full approach to everything, and doing the best you can.
Yeah. Mindset is everything. People sometimes, I run into people that, they, as soon as they get an ounce of self-pity, they just stay in that rut and it's hard to get them out of it. But, for me, I had mentors that I leaned on. So in your journey, did you have mentors, or do you have a mentor that
I
you,
do. I have a few mentors I lean on the day to day, that have been in business for a long times with themselves. I do have a business advisor within the company that I can reach out to that's been in the business for a while as well. And so I lean on those people, and I
Mm.
think I think everybody should lean on people like that. And I talked to, eat lunch with some guys that, just to kind of shoot the breeze and go out there and just talk about the day to day, and you realize that you may not be having a problem that day, but then they are, and then vice versa. When you go to lunch, and it's just the way that things operate. But you also have that peace of mind where, sometimes if I want to go have a 2-hour lunch, I can. I'm my boss and I get to get things figured out, and I get to get myself in the right peace of mind. But that also means that being the boss, that I may be working 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. And so there's things that come and go with it, but that's the fun side of it, that it really relies on me to push it and to go through the ups and downs. And, one thing I try to do with my staff is try to create a culture, and it's a culture, a great culture around us that, one, we want to have an open communication. I want them to be telling me, things that they see out in the field and things of that nature, because that helps us all, perform better for our clients. Because at the end of the day, we're nothing without our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, with my day job, the word trust is mentioned on a daily basis. And whether it's trust with your team or employees, or trust with your customers and clients, trust at home. Right. It all impacts how that business runs. And, the way I make that connection each day is, for me, this is just me asking that question, am I showing compassion? That seems to be, there's all different ways that you can show trust, but somehow that understanding of how you're going to help someone else and helping them helps you. So as you build your team, and a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, they start out, they may be a solopreneur, or they've got a small operation. And as they grow, they start adding these people. As you add people, how do you handle that? I guess the question I'm asking is, as that growth goes and the culture that you're talking about, how do you do that?
I think I lean a lot on my football experience, that if you take from a collegiate or professional locker room, you're taking personalities from all over the United States, and on the football aspect, and you've got to figure out a way to mingle and get along and deal with different issues that arise. Doesn't mean you can't have disagreements, and you can have different beliefs. I think for us, as we try to, not everybody wants to come in as a technician and be a technician their whole life. So it's asking them, what do you want to do in your life? What do you want to do to make yourself better? If you want to be that, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to grow, let's grow together. Let me help you. I've got connections with other people and in other employments. When you become an entrepreneur, and you have things, you make relationships with people all across the country as well, bankers and different things. And I've got a lot of friends that I played with it across the country. It's a fraternity. And so you can use those things to make that culture as well, where you're taking, an 18, 19, 20-year-old that's coming out that wants to be something, and they have growth opportunity. And that's all you can ask for, because we all want to grow. We all want to have a way to get better, and let me use the opportunity that's been put forth in front of me to help you. And it's just another opportunity, I think, that we can draw down the line to everybody just continue to help each other.
Yeah. So taking that one, I want to, and I'm not trying to take a negative aspect of that, but let's just say you've had you or the business might have a good day, but they've had a bad day. Mm-hmm. Do you have team meetings, or how do you handle stuff like that to keep the team together?
We have team meetings every morning. We have a team meeting before we start our day. And it's usually starts off with, how was your evening? How was your weekend? Just kind of getting a feel of the room. You can obviously see when people are down, they've had some other things. You don't want to do that in a big group meeting. You don't want to get real personal, but it's a door open all policy that you can always come in and communicate. And then a lot of times, I try to talk to the guys individually. And, when you have a little bit of spare time, you just kind of see how they're doing. Just, how are things? How's things at home? If they're married, in a relationship, have kids, what's going on with you? What things of that nature. Some people are faith-based, some people are not. And you kind of play both areas of that. And you really try to dive into what is important to them, and what might be bothering them. Because again, more people have bad days than they have good, because it's easier to be negative. You know what I mean? Like people are the tendency of nature and friends and people is always to try and drive things down. I mean, you can imagine even the Olympics, there was somebody sitting on the couch saying they could do something better from an athlete that fell on the biggest stage. But that's just the way life is.
Right.
And so I take that aspect of let's talk, let's open communicate. And I feel like you can get a good read on people's body language, and I've done a lot of things that you can tell people are bored. They're not really into it, or things happen. Maybe that's a day that we go eat lunch as a group. Maybe that's a day that we one day we went and ate breakfast, and you just try to do different things to make the day not seem the same thing over and over, and just kind of make it as enjoyable as you can.
Yeah. So let's move out of the team and just talk a little bit about you managing the business. As whenever it's inevitable. I get in a rut, whatever it is. There's ruts or traps. Some people call them traps that we're stuck in. How do you recognize that? How do you pull yourself out of that ditch? How does that work for you as you run your business?
That's a tough one, and that's a really great question, because it's hard. There are days that you leave this job and you got to go home to your family, and you got to go home to a smiling kid or kids that are they're playing with their friends, and you don't need to bring that negativity to them because they've done nothing. They're in their own little place, they're in a happy place, and I think you take a few breaths and you try, and it's still, you live in that little moment, and then you kind of go back to the room, and it's you're thinking about it, and then you get them to bed, and then you can't sleep. And there's just, I think the ability that, I think when people worry, it means they care about something. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference. A lot of successful people I have a lot of friends that don't really care. They sleep 7 or 8 hours every night. They don't have a whole lot of worries. They, people that travel all across the country, and they have major credit card debt, but they don't care. And that's the difference between a lot of entrepreneurs, especially successful ones, is they do care. And you're trying to figure out, I'm looking ahead already, to March and April of next year. A lot of people aren't looking that far in advance. Yeah. And so that's also some of that worry is how are we going to get there? And what are we going to do to get there? And so I think that's always just part of the business. And that's also part of really just life, whether it be marriage, the struggles of day to day, because even on an individual basis, that's not even personal with a job, is not every day's great, but you just have to really sit back and realize, things that you want to do, goals that you want to have, and you just try to figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah. I'll share a quick story. I had a really bad day. I had a client. He's ended up selling his business, so he's no longer a client. I was like, man, he was such a good client. And I was going to tell my wife about it. I was already home, and she was waiting on her to come home, and I couldn't wait to tell her how bad my day was. And my wife is a psychiatrist, right? So she comes in, and I'm like, how's your day? And when a psychiatrist says today was the craziest day ever, and a psychiatrist says that, I'm like, you have my attention. Yes. I'll save mine for later.
Yes.
Yeah. She doesn't tell details, but yeah, you never know how and when, but you have to pull yourself out. Yeah.
You do. And I think marriage helps with that. I think, because no marriage is perfect. Anybody says a marriage is perfect, they're lying. They're missing a lot of things. And it doesn't have to be like arguments, but you have disagreements, and it's okay. And I think that I've done the same thing. You go home and it was a crazy day, and you say, "How's your day?" And she said, I just need a minute. Just give me give me 5 minutes to myself. And I get that because individual, I'm by myself right now. I've had 5 minutes by myself. And if you're sitting there with both the kids, I don't see that. And so it goes hand in hand, and it's always revolving. It's always changing. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So Marriage Therapy by Brett and Alan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can break it down.
Yeah. So let's go back to business. Yeah. But it's important. I guess the point we're making here is it's important to have that person to lean on. They're there for you. Yeah.
It is. And there's people in your building have that person, and that person may be somebody's mom. That person may be somebody's grandma, but somebody like that, it's nothing. It doesn't have to be just a spouse you don't know. but it's somebody lean on. It may be a best friend, and you
Yeah.
find that group of people that really mean something in you with you in life, that you can ask those hard questions.
Yeah.
It's not just let's just go out here and BS and we're going to go do something. It's actually, hey, it may be emotional for me, in those conversations. And it's okay that I shed a tear in front of you, because you're not going to think it's funny. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to
Right.
take me serious. And that's another aspect that you want with your group of people around you.
Well, you bring up an important topic of vulnerability. There's no quicker way to build trust with someone by being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
To trust, since we're talking about marriage and love, you can love somebody, they can't love you back, but trust is reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to extend the trust before it's given. Right. So I want to wrap it up. I hate saying that, but I want to kind of wrap it up a little bit in a package and bring this thing closer to where you are today. Let's talk a little bit about innovation. All the people that I talk to on this podcast, I mean, it's all kinds of industries. Everybody discusses innovation. Sometimes it's more around technology, and sometimes it's not. There's non-technical ways to innovate. So as you look at your business in the future and how you grow, what does innovation mean in your industry?
Trying to stay a step ahead, trying to keep up with, AI, trying to keep up with social media and mobile, and you're trying to be, we're in the service industry. So, we rely on our clients. We're nothing without them. So you're trying to keep up with them, and on the day to day, the things changing in their lives too, and trying to make, use of what we're doing, make it make sense to them, and why they want to spend money on a product that we provide. And so you don't want to just be doing the same thing we did 10 years ago. And, it's constantly looking forward in this industry, and where's the pest industry going? Where are we going with this? Because you have to deal with, like, for us as an organization, we even have people that are beekeepers, like we have pollinators, like, so you really protect them. We have as a franchise as a whole, we have an entomologist on staff. One of the only ones out there, and you try to do things that to innovate that, and to really try and stay ahead of the game. And you're not always ahead of the game, but you're trying to always keep up there, and that way you can be in that conversation.
Yeah, my favorite lack of innovation story is BlackBerry, right? That was the phone to have back in the day, and now it's they had the game figured out. Yeah, so that's my favorite one to. Well, I say favorite. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's a great story.
It's one of them, yeah. But you can't be complacent, and I think that, again, I know you don't. The football aspect, you can't be complacent with what you're doing. You don't stay the same every day. You either get better or you get worse. That's your only two options, and that's as a business, as a person. We're not going to stay. If you work out, your body, you're going to get better. If you don't work out, you're going to get, you're going to lose something of your mass, your muscle mass, your endurance, whatever you're doing of trying to be healthy for yourself. You just don't stay the same. And I think that you always want to look out, that 30, 60, 90, when you're looking ahead and trying to figure out what's going out there. And then, sometimes you look a little bit further ahead and say, what can we do, this time next year? Like, we write down stuff for people, call for a pest, and like, hey, we got this. Well, now I'm thinking I've already got it on my schedule, to get ahead of that for next year and do different things that I didn't do this year. And so it's just little bitty things sometimes.
Yeah. Atrophy isn't limited to just the muscles, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That's a great point. Yeah. Okay. So last question. All right. This is not meant to be a curveball. It's going to seem like it. But if you could go back to your starting of being an entrepreneur, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice, or what would you do? Anything you would do different, or advice you might give yourself? What would you do there?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would honestly go back and tell myself to do it sooner. For me, this is my 6th year out of football, and it took me 5 years to figure it out, to how much enjoyment I get out of this. And and it's struggled. I mean, there's days that, I'm like that trust with my wife, there's been tears and everything else. It's not been perfect, but it's what I was needing. You know what I mean? And so it's given me an itch to where I really want to get this one going and move in the right direction. And then I want to do another one, and that's the itch. Is I wish I would have done it probably sooner. And just to say, who cares if you fail? Because I think that's the hardest part. I think we look around in today's society, a lot of places keeping up with the Joneses, fear of failure. And I'm a bad person, this and that and the other. And it's okay. It's okay to fail. Think of how many times we know billionaires that have failed. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be perfect. And it doesn't even matter if you just have a regular W-2 job, you're going to have failure. And so I think you just find something. I probably would have told myself to, just to find something and just do it. Just take, jump off both feet in and just figure it out. And, I know I've struggled, personally with that aspect of you go back and you're like, did I waste this much time? And you can't get time back and it's so valuable. But, I think the patience level that you have and the mindset that I've been able to take, I'm very happy with it. I'm very fortunate that I am where I am, but it definitely would have been just to just go ahead and do it, start early and go.
Yeah. The thing about failure, ironically had a football coach that, he said, you know what? I don't care if you fail. That means you tried. And we're just going to keep trying. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point. And that's what it is. So like, I look back and, hindsight, you can't go backwards. And so you look at something and you say, man, if I'd have done this, I would have been here. Well, you can't do that because I didn't say yes. I didn't jump in. And I want to be able to try. And that's what I try to instill, in my kids is like, just go for it. Like, don't be afraid to try something new that's, that you're not used to, because you start realizing, even like yourself, realizing how many other people you have similarities with. And that you can now talk to on a business aspect. I mean, communities, the Chamber of Commerce's and everything else in the world that you can talk to other business owners and get advice from that I didn't know about as much because I wasn't in that world. That, you wish you could go back, but now it's just like, okay, let's, the sky's the limit. We still got plenty of daylight. Let's just go.
Let's do it. Yeah. Inactivity is the devil. Right.
It is. Yeah. It is. And a lot of that brings on that negativity we talked about earlier. It is, when you're sitting around, a lot of people don't think about it. I just want to sit around all day and watch movies and lay on the couch. How much fun would that be? And it'd be great for like an hour. One movie would be great. And then you're like, okay, I could do something else, because you do start thinking more negative when you are sitting around doing nothing.
Yep.
You're not thinking, that power of positive thinking, putting yourself around the right people. Ideas come up and creativity comes up and it gets you excited, or it should get you excited.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this has been a great conversation.
Yes.
I think we could keep going, but I think we lose some listeners. Yeah, well, thanks for being on the podcast today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon.